This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. On this episode, we have an amazing guest. He's a contributor at DLF, and he's the co-owner of JWB Fantasy. It's my pleasure to welcome Wyatt Bertolone to the show.
Kevin, honored to be here. I'm super excited for this. It's incredible to be here.
I'm honored to have you. Looking forward to diving right in here. So for the listeners and viewers that are unfamiliar with your work, what is JWB Fantasy? What is it all about? And what is your role there?
Sure. Yeah. So as you mentioned, I'm the co-owner there at JWB Fantasy Football. We're kind of in like an all-encompassing platform. We hit on basically every format there is in fantasy football. And our aim is really just to try and give actionable advice in a consumable package.
That's perfect. It sounds intriguing. I love fantasy football resources, and I love brands like yours where it's like, okay, some people might not be aware of it, but once they discover it, they connect. They connect with the analysts involved in it, and it you get this new audience of people that didn't find you, but they really appreciate the unique approach that you take with it. So love supporting brands like yourselves, like JWB. There's obviously some awesome people that work over there. Anything else you want to say about the brand?
It's just we try to be like almost like a family feel type of things. Our Discord has grown like massively. We're almost like 800 members strong now in there right now. It's a free Discord. That's one of the things that makes it nice, I think, is it's just people in there every day just trying to get better at fantasy football and be friendly, to each other, which is nice. Sometimes there's competitive streaks that can happen amongst us degenerates in the fantasy football industry. And it's nice to try and cultivate a space where everyone can feel like comfortable with everybody else and just talk about fantasy. For
sure. And I think that as an independent brand, like the most important thing is that community, right? It's the community outside of, the people on Twitter, right? The people that are like actually like, fans of the work and are consumers. And that community is so important. And it sounds like you guys really do a good job connecting with those people that are appreciating your work.
Yeah, it's important to us.
So now did you grow up in Ohio? Is that right?
Yeah, I grew up in Northeast Ohio. Been here my entire life.
Okay. And I would imagine it's probably pretty rare to grow up in Ohio and not be a football fan.
Yeah, I would imagine you have enough places or teams that you can at least latch on to if you want to. I unfortunately have been a Browns fan my entire life, so there's that.
there is that. So you were a big sports fan growing up, I would imagine.
Yeah, I was kind of exposed to like all the sports growing up. My parents are very supportive about just letting me explore all the sports and see what I liked, and I ended up playing a lot of things. Honestly, like football was one of the last things that I really got passionate about. Originally, like baseball was my biggest sport. I played that in the summers. In the fall, I'd play soccer. In the spring, I'd play tennis. I'm not a big person, so football was never really my thing. Growing up, I was always the smallest kid, so getting hit wasn't like something that I was super interested into. So I never really played. But I was always into sports, and then as I like got into my adolescence is when I really started to latch on to the Browns right before they got sold, which was a lot of fun. But yeah.
So what did you think of those Ravens? Like once the Ravens were born, did you despise them or did you continue to kind of
I was just like jealous. I was just jealous because it like, I mean, obviously you can never actually say that it would have gone that way, but you can really look at like Ozzie Newsome, the way he built that team and everything. Like this could have happened for the Browns and it didn't because they were sold. Obviously, like I said, you can't just say that would happen, but it was just jealousy while they were gone.
It's the worst feeling. I've lost my Seattle Sonics, a franchise that was beloved here. I mean, obviously with the Browns, I mean that's a franchise with a legacy and long-standing history. Such a terrible thing to lose a team like that, especially to a division rival. Like it's just the weirdest thing I would imagine. Like once you got the Browns back to be put into the division with them. So
yeah.
So what about favorite players like across the sports landscape growing up? Like who did you love?
Yeah, so like when I was growing up really passionate about baseball, I really loved Omar Vizquel. who played, for the now Guardians, because he's the person I like identified the most with. He was also a very small human for his sport, and I played a lot of infield. I usually bat top of the order, things like that. So, and I played I felt like I played the field well, but like as a batter, I could just get on base. I couldn't hit for power, and that was Omar Vizquel. So I really identified with him. And then going into football, Joe Thomas and Nick Chubb are my favorite Browns of all time. They're the ones that I've experienced the most, while I was really passionate about the Browns. And they just exemplify being a great person, player, all those things. And then also, while the Browns were sold, I had to find another team on to root for. That ended up being Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I just liked a lot of the players that were on that team during that time, especially Mike Allstott, who was my guy, throwback there. But just if you ever just want to have some fun, just watch Mike Allstott highlights of him just running over player after player. I loved watching him play.
For sure, Allstott and Dunn, that combination of thunder lightning. I mean, it's as good as it gets when it comes to just highlights. You got Allstott just barreling over people. You got Dunn with incredible quickness. That's a great duo. I like your thought there. I like your style too with Omar Vizquel because he started as a Mariner. He was beloved in Seattle too.
Yeah,
an incredible talent, incredible glove, and a great representation of a team that a guy you can easily root for. So as a sports fan, what was the worst loss you ever experienced besides losing your franchise?
Well, so being a fan of Northeastern Ohio sports, there's a lot to pick from for the teams that I root for. But the ones that really stuck out for me were the Guardians losing in the World Series to the Braves. That one really hurt. And then I don't know if this is on many Browns fans' lists, but the Browns losing to the Chiefs in the 2020 playoffs after Mahomes goes down and Chad Henne has to come in.
Yeah.
And I believe it was a 3rd and 11 in the 4th quarter. The Browns have a chance to stop him, and Chad Henne runs for 10 yards against you. And then they drop that easy play to Tyreek Hill to convert on 4th down. The game's over. And there's also a play in that game where I can't remember the player who caught the pass that was going in for a touchdown, got hit with a helmet to helmet and fumbled, and it was just called a fumble.
Oh yeah.
They no call on the helmet to helmet, and it's just what are we doing? And it's just one of those moments where it was this could be the magic run, and to lose in that way against the Chiefs, a team that you expected to go in and just get stopped by, really, really hurt.
Oh, those moments could definitely torment you. How about an all-time favorite sports moment?
Cavs championship. Because it's the only championship in my lifetime for a team that I root for. So that one's pretty easy.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. But you gotta love sports for that. Obviously, sometime one of your teams is probably going to pull it off at some point. But there are cities that have a lot of issues, and obviously, Cleveland Browns have had a rough run, but you got that Cavs championship. That's special. Yeah. That's great. And LeBron brought it home. So I can see why that would be a special one. Now you ended up becoming a chef. Was that something you always wanted to do?
Yeah, I come from big Italian family. Growing up, every Thursday and Sunday, we went to my grandparents' house. My grandmother cooked dinner, the whole big thing, the kitchen in the basement, big basement, tables lined up next to each other. Everybody's there, the whole thing. So I grew up associating food with family, and pleasing people and that kind of thing. And I was always really passionate about food and cooking. So I always knew I wanted to do something with that. And I basically just started working in kitchens and kind of working my way up through there, and did that for many, many years, working as a chef.
And then you ended up kind of retiring from that, right?
Yeah. About 6 years ago, I left the industry. I honestly just kind of got burnt out doing it. I have a son. He was born not that long before I left. And I kind of realized at that point that being able to have the proper work and family ratio, was really, really important. And I didn't think I was going to get it where it was. So now I'm a research and development manager for a snacking company. So I was still able to actually kind of use a little bit of that culinary experience. I
love that, and you can obviously use it at home too, as well, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the cool thing about being really passionate about cooking is whenever I want to express that, I can just do it at home.
Yeah, and it's it's a hobby. It's something that you enjoy, and you have the background to really make it a good thing at home for sure. I love it.
Yeah.
So when along the way did you discover fantasy sports and fantasy football?
So my father and my uncle are in a fantasy league, which I am now in, but it's going into
Nice.
its 32nd year.
Wow.
And so I'm 37. So growing up, my father would be like, "Hey, David Boston's on our team. We're rooting for David Boston, or whoever, And so I got exposed to fantasy football pretty early on in life, and just basically always wanted to play in it, and and be a part of it in some way. Like my uncle started a fantasy league for like me and my cousins when we were young. Like my first league was when I was 14. So yeah, I've been playing for a long time.
That's awesome. It's in your blood. I love
Yeah,
that.
it's absolutely in my blood.
So when you first started like discovering content, I mean, you're talking back in the day of like probably a lot of magazines, right?
Yeah, for sure.
When what did you discover? Initially when it came to content, who were the earlier analysts that you found?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going with the classics back in the day. When I first started the ESPN, CBS, that kind of thing. That's where the occasional magazine off the racks. If I'm like, waiting for my parents while we're out shopping, and I'm just like browsing, the section right before the register or something. But yeah, just the classics for me.
So when it comes to fantasy, what was it that hooked you? What was it aside from just the bloodline? Like what did you love most about the game early on when you got a passion for it?
Yeah, fantasy football is just like a combination of some of my most favorite things. Uh, Obviously, very competitive. We talked about sports and all that stuff like that. A highly competitive person, just in general. Uh, love football, and I think fantasy football is basically like a puzzle. That's at least that's how I think of it and how I approach it. Especially when it comes to like redraft. Like every year is a new puzzle you have to try and figure out, and that always just drew me right in. Is that trying to figure out the puzzle while trying to beat other people? It just worked in sync perfectly for me.
I love it. Now, do you have a primary league, like one league that is your primary league that you got to win?
Yeah, that one, with my uncle and my father is
Oh,
absolutely the league for me. I'm now going into my 10th year in that league. Like I said, it's going into its 32nd year.
wow.
There's no one else in the league that has under 20 years in the league.
Wow.
Like it's a big deal. It's a
Yeah.
it's a high stakes league too. Um, we live draft every single year.
Nice.
There we have a fantasy football. We have a party to like present the trophy afterwards and all that. It's the best.
I need to hear more details about this, like special traditions. Talk to me about that live draft. Talk to me about the ceremonies involved. This is my kind of stuff. I need to hear more.
Is the live drafts have kind of bounced around a little bit in recent years. We used to draft at one of the league members owned a healthcare company, and we would go draft in the boardroom basically, and have the draft up on a projector. We're all sitting around the table, which is super cool.
Yeah.
But recently we've gone to more just finding spots that we
Mhm.
just want to go do it at. Whether it's just bar or whatever. But we make sure to however many people can get in. Like there's a couple of people at this point because most of the league members are my father's age. Um, like some don't live in the state anymore, and some have like retired, in a different state.
Yeah.
So uh normally like at least 9 of the 10 teams are actually present, if not every
Nice.
single team, which is good.
Yeah.
um Try and keep in contact throughout the season. Obviously, most of the league is within Northeast Ohio, so that's not so hard to do. And then after the season's over, we get together for a party during championship week of the playoffs, during the AFC and NFC championship week, to do trophy presentation. Um, the loser has to get a license plate cover. I lost in fantasy football, all those
Nice.
things. We play poker on that day.
Oh, cool.
So that way the losers can try and get some of their money back from the winner. But yeah, it's just awesome because they've been doing it for so long. To be able to join that and
Yeah.
be part of it, it's great.
That's special. Tell me about the trophy. What kind of trophy you got? Is
I
it a
wish
trophy that goes back a long ways
Oh,
or
yes. I wish I still had it sitting behind me. I didn't win this
oh,
last year, but I had won the year prior, so it would have been sitting there behind me. But I mean, it's tall. It's a couple feet tall. Every single winner is on the plaque, going all around it for every single year. There's in that league there's a total points winner and a head-to-head winner. There's a trophy for
Nice.
each one.
Nice.
Yeah, they're big deal.
Yeah, I love that too. I like the trophy presentation is something that's missed in a lot of leagues because that,
Yeah.
getting the group together. I usually do it like at the draft the next season, right? We kind of have the ceremony, kind of
Yeah.
reward the trophies. We do like a toilet bowl. Like here's a toilet bowl trophy right here, right? It's like
Yeah.
an actual like toilet cleaner. So try to have fun with that because it's about that experience with your league mates, and the more awards you have, the more fun, like the more opportunity for fun speeches and more heckling and more taunting your opponents with that championship trophy. I love that stuff so much. So who is the biggest rival you have in fantasy, whether it's like an industry league or in your home league or any other leagues you play?
I try to think about this, and I don't know if I have a specific rival, like someone that I've really gone back and forth with, but I do know that there's one person that I fear the most if I'm going to be in a league with them, and that's Tyler, who's from JWB, FF Tyler O on Twitter. He is just like without a doubt the sharpest fantasy football player I've ever encountered. I just like it's one of those things like I don't even know if I can explain it. He's just like always right. Uh, he does extremely well in the Fantasy Pros ranking contest every single year. I believe last year he was 4th in weekly accuracy contest. He just crushes every single thing I see him doing. So if I ever see him in a draft room, I just assume I'm playing for second place.
That's awesome. It's a great person to have on your team with JWB. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
very, very lucky to have
But
him.
not a good one to have in your league.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. So when it comes to fun stuff like last place punishments, you guys do a license plate cover. That's what you said, right? Is there a favorite one you have? Not something you've done, but something you've seen out there, floating around. A favorite last place punishment idea.
Yeah, my favorite one, and one that I desperately want to be in a league for, is a tattoo league where the loser has to get a tattoo. Uh, Obviously, there has to be certain rules in place. I've thought about this a lot. Like, the league fee is the league pays for the tattoo. The winner gets to decide the tattoo for the loser, but you have to have stipulations about what the tattoo could be. Like nothing offensive,
Sure.
obviously.
Yeah.
You have to have a certain size that it's allowed to be. But then, like, the loser gets to pick the place of where the tattoo goes. Yeah, I would love to be in one, but I could never find enough people to do one.
Yeah, for sure. You need to find 11 people that have a ton of tattoos and are willing, right?
Or some people who are really confident.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that could backfire. What are your favorite league settings and formats?
I honestly don't have a preference. Like, I just like playing everything. I love having different leagues. Like my primary league, the one that I talked about, it's close to standard scoring, which is like becoming extinct at this point.
Yeah,
Uh, and I just enjoy the different, like I mentioned, part of the reason why I like fantasy football is I think it's a puzzle. So I like the puzzles of different leagues, if different settings. There are some like I don't like 1 QB leagues a whole lot. They're fine in redraft and dynasty. I really don't like them, but I'll play them because it's cool. I have to I have to adjust, and figure it out. So yeah, I honestly just like everything.
and most of the time, it really comes down to who you're playing with, right? You get a
Yeah,
good group of people. The settings might not matter as much as just having good times
absolutely,
in competition with
absolutely.
them, right?
Yeah.
So when did you start creating fantasy content? What inspired that?
So like many, I started during the pandemic. Um, I for a long time I had been making my own rankings. I had been working on like building my own projections and that kind of stuff. And I don't know, eventually I was just like, I kind of just want to put this out there and start making content and just see what happens.
So who inspired that? Like, were there some inspirations that made you think, okay, I can do this, or I'd like to do this?
um, I don't know if there's anybody who necessarily inspired me to do it, but I know like when I started, like Gold Star was always Matthew Berry for like he's so good at incorporating his personality, bringing in humor while also bringing the advice and everything and putting it all together better than possibly anyone. I think it's that's probably not controversial to say that Matthew Berry is like the best and has been the best when it comes to just making content for people. So I know like that was always in the back of my head when I started, was like, that's what you aim for, at least. Like nobody else is Matthew Berry, but you can at least use that as a path.
Sure. So talk to me about the timeline, like when you just started creating content. Where have you created content? I know that you're obviously doing some stuff with DLF now. Talk to me about that experience as well.
Yeah, so from the very beginning, it was JWB. I started it with a friend of mine originally, and then I met Skylar, the co-owner of JWB, pretty early on in my time on Twitter, which is basically my time creating content. And Skylar came on, and it's been with just doing everything through JWB since then. And then about 2 years ago, 2022, I joined DLF. Basically, John Hesterman, who also writes for DLF, hit me up basically one day, was like, "Hey, do you want to write for DLF?" And I don't write, like I that was not my thing. And I was like, sure, like, and so then I applied, and I was accepted, and I've been writing for them ever since. But it's been cool because it's been a challenge, because I don't think of myself as a writer. I think that I'm very good. But it's been cool to try and work on that. And I've gotten some good responses to it, which is nice. And taking on a little bit more this year, I have an article series that comes out every single week through the entire off season for them, which is really cool to be given that responsibility to do that.
I love that. Yeah, sometimes you gotta get uncomfortable, right, to get the best out of yourself, right? So I love that story. I love, you took on that challenge. Talk to me about JWB a little bit more. What does JWB stand for? And talk to me about some of the challenges that you faced, like creating in an independent brand.
Yeah, JWB originally was just a portmanteau of initials, and now it's basically just means just win, baby.
Nice.
But yeah, so I mean, we just started, just a couple people, and we're just putting out the content because we just wanted to put something out there, And when Skylar joined the team, that's when I think things really kind of took off for us, and we really started to build out the team and like content plan, and really start to build goals. Because I mean, I can't speak highly enough of Skylar. He is the engine that makes JWB go. He's the person who like does all the things for the YouTube. He creates all of the thumbnails. He does all of that stuff. He is the plans the content. He just has a very good mind for that kind of thing.
So what are your long-term goals with JWB, and what's been the most fulfilling part of this process for you?
Yeah, so long-term goals, it's really just to make quality and helpful content for anybody who we're so lucky to have consuming our content. And hopefully we become the best players that we can be from doing so, and everything else is a bonus. Everybody like on our team, we all have lives, we all have families, we have full-time jobs, like this is our hobby and passion that we do on the side. And we're very realistic about that I mean, we work, we're grinding at it, and we put out quality content as best as we can. But we're also realistic about this. Is like, we're not necessarily trying to make a job out of this. It's just something we're very passionate about. So we're going to continue to put it out, and everything else that happens is a bonus.
And so what have you enjoyed the most with this entity and this brand?
Yeah, with JWB and the fantasy space, it's really just the relationships that I've built along the way. Like it's still crazy to me, like since joining Twitter, thinking that like now I met some of my best friends through Twitter and through fantasy football like that. Like I never would have thought, like, it's weird, you join Twitter, you don't know what's going to be like, because I wasn't on Twitter before doing this at all. And you don't realize how many degenerates like you are out there, And it's just so wild to find the community and be like, oh my gosh, there's so many of you, and you're all so cool. I just want to hang out with everybody. And it's just been so nice to just like connect with so many different people.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, a whole new world opens up when you when you discover the fantasy football community. And then just to kind of been through what we've been through in regards to actually finally meeting people, and it's just it's a wild experience for everybody that's kind of gone through this process, back pre-COVID, but obviously COVID was a huge influx of people. And it's been great to see. So when it comes to the fantasy football community, Talk to me about your experience with like the expo. I know that you've gone, several years and you've enjoyed the process. Talk to me about your expo experience.
The expo is just the best, man. Like, it does not get much better than the Fantasy Football Expo. Um, you get to see all the people that you interact with online, like thousands of people. Basically, like there's so many people. Being able to actually spend quality time with those people is so awesome. Um, it's hard to put into words because it's truly like a special weekend for I think all of us. And like when you're there, everybody just wants to have a good time. Like obviously we're all on Twitter. We see like the Twitter beefs that happen occasionally that stir up. Like that just doesn't exist at the expo. Like everybody checks their egos at the door and we're just there to have a good time. Everybody is there just having a blast, having good times. It's amazing. Like I can't speak well enough about the experience.
What's your favorite event at the expo?
That's tough. So the opening night is pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that's probably it because like that is purely just about just hanging out,
Yeah.
So it's nice everybody gets in, you get to see people for the first time that weekend, kind of thing. Like, oh, it's been a year, moments, which is nice.
And that setting is just perfect for that the
for
event,
sure.
right? I love it. So what how much has the fantasy community meant to you? I mean, you mentioned like, creating relationships and friendships that you didn't expect to have, but you have them now. Like how much has this meant to you over the years?
It's, immense. I don't know if I can exactly put it into words because like a lot of my life now revolves around this. My family and then fantasy football and the community that's come along with it is like, that's the order in my life at this point, so it's hard to say like how much it means to me because it's so much.
It's your world, right? Like that's a lot of people can share that same perspective on it. I love it. I know you're also a Cincinnati live drafter for SFB. Am I correct?
Yeah, this will be the second year now going there. It's gonna be
Nice.
fun.
Yeah, talk to me about that
I'm actually
experience.
wearing last year's shirt.
Nice. Talk to me about that experience and what you're looking forward to in 2024.
Yeah, it was so much fun. John Bosch did a great job, picked a great spot. This awesome brewery that had some really interesting beers. They're honestly all very good. But it was just a blast. I mean, the live drafts are so much fun. They always are. The SFB drafts are even better, I think, because we know that they're for a very good cause. In addition to the fact that you're getting to go have fun and draft a fantasy football league, with people. I did the Canton live draft 2 years ago, and last year Cincy, this year Cincy again. I'm also going to try and go to the Cleveland one, but I'm supposed to go to a wedding that day, so like I think it lines up where I can like stop by for a couple hours and still make it to the wedding. So I'm going to try and do that. But
no, sorry, go ahead.
It's just a really good time. I'm really looking forward to this year. I know it's like doubled in size, I believe, for this year. We're going to a different brewery, I believe. Which should be a lot of fun, meeting even more people that I didn't meet last year. Hopefully there's everybody from last year returning to be able to say hi to those people again. They're the best.
I love it. Yeah, sounds like a lot of people are hitting multiple events. Obviously drafting at one and visiting another. So that's really cool. It's amazing like how the live SFB drafts have grown in the last 3 years, right? It's just, coming from nowhere to all of a sudden now all around the world. So SFB live draft, if you have a chance to get to one, definitely recommended. Obviously, one thing that connects us all is that love for football. So when it comes to 2024, I know it's early, but are there players that you're just dying to jump ADP for, players that are kind of considered, my guys for you right now?
Yeah, so I got one for each position. I'll hit on real quick.
Nice.
At QB, it's Kyler Murray for me. This one's just like so easy, and I still understand why like his ADP just I don't feel like has caught up to where it should be and hasn't been for a while now. Whenever he's healthy, he's a top 5 QB. Like it just is what it is, but he's not drafted like that. That one's just really easy to me. At running back, I picked Brian Robinson. Cliff Kingsbury offense really likes the running backs near the goal line. I think that's gonna be Brian Robinson. I understand they just signed Austin Eckler. I think we saw some real signs of decline for Eckler last year. I also understand that he was dealing with a high ankle injury, but he's getting older. those injuries tend to wear more on the older players. Like, I think we are starting to see the beginning of the end. And Eckler signing with the Commanders has made Brian Robinson's price get even cheaper. Like, I know in Underdog Fantasy, where it's just basically the most reliable redraft ADP you can get at this point, even though it's not necessarily redraft. He fell in ADP after the Eckler signing. I continue to draft him. I really think that Brian Robinson, while is just a good player, like it's not this some great player, just because of his price is a really good bet. At wide receiver, it's DK Metcalf, and honestly, he's just a player that I just cannot quit. Like, I think there's another 12 touchdown season in him. He's too big, too fast, all those things. I like Ryan Grubb coming to sign with the Seahawks there, because he implemented this like high flying, like attacking down the field offense for Washington. And I think he's going to bring that to the Seahawks. That's something that Geno Smith has honestly done well in his time with Seattle. I think he can do it with DK Metcalf, and Metcalf continues to get drafted as this like fringe wide receiver one, maybe a little bit behind there. And I just want to continue to make bets on a player like him who has like his physical profile and the upside that I think he has. And then at tight end, to go along with Kyler Murray, it's Trey McBride, who just became an absolute target monster last year. Was very good with those targets as well, like on a per target basis, very, very efficient. The only thing he didn't really have were touchdowns, which you could explain at least part of the way away because of the QB play he had last year before Kyler Murray. And I thought Trey McBride was just a really talented tight end coming into the NFL anyways. Before this past year, I was telling people, like, it's okay that he didn't do that much as a rookie. Like, rookie tight ends normally don't. Just because other rookie tight ends did doesn't mean he won't have success next year, because he could still follow the normal path for a tight end. In fact, like, I think that you can use that as a corollary to Michael Mayer into this next season. Another thing where, like, highly thought of prospect coming in the NFL. He didn't do that much as a rookie. The other tight ends did, and now he's kind of being forgotten about. But like, he could still just come out this next year and do it again. And I know like the Cardinals are probably drafting Marvin Harrison Jr., but there's plenty of opportunity available in that offense for Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride to get their fill of targets.
I love it. Yeah, great answers. In the key is value. It's right. Just getting
You're
a
right.
player, that's going to slip, finding some value there. And I think like Brian Robinson, that's a great one, because it's a guy that people are going to skip. They're going to be
Yeah.
scared of Eckler. They're not going to think he's that great. Well, because he probably isn't. But value wise, if you get a running back on your team that can, pile in some touchdowns. Touchdowns are hard to predict. But in a system like that, with a guy like that, he's probably going to get a fair share. So that's a great answer. And pairing Murray and McBride, I love that. That's great. Great answers for sure. Let's dive into some rapid fire questions now. I'll just throw out some questions. You let me know what first comes to mind. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing in the industry right now?
I'm going to go back to something I said before, and that's just the relationships I've built and continue to build.
Nice. Now name one person that you'd want to watch a football game with just to get their perspective on the game.
I would love to sit down with a like cerebral but statue QB like Peyton Manning or Tom Brady. These QBs who had to learn to like diagnose defenses like that, like who they walk up to the line and they know who they're going to because they can see what the defense is going to be. I just want to know like how they like see they see the offense walk up to the play and they're able to go, okay, they're playing this defense and this is me. And I just want that.
Yeah, no, you love hearing them rattle off things like that. So that would be fun. A full game, getting that experience. I would take that for sure. Now, is there anyone attending the 2024 Expo that you were looking forward to connect with more, that you maybe you hadn't connected enough with in the past? Like, you just one of those regrets, like, oh shoot, I wish I would have spent more time with that person, or maybe someone new attending. Who are you looking forward to connect with it in 2024?
After each expo, I always say, I feel like I didn't get to spend enough time with so many different people. Like that's the only thing that like sucks about the expo is there's so many people I want to talk to that I feel like I just don't get to spend enough time with enough people. So it's not even necessarily someone in particular. It's just I want to be able to maximize every second at the expo.
I don't think it's possible, though. That's the problem
Yeah.
with the expo,
No.
right? You always leave wanting more, and that's the reason why that's why everyone comes back, right? They always want more. So I'm with you on that. It's hard to name a single person because everybody kind of fits in that cup. What are your favorite hobbies and activities outside of sports?
So spending time with my family is number one. Cooking is number 2. Obviously, now that I don't do it for a living anymore, it's nice to be able to do it on the side. And then probably honestly, because like fantasy football is one of my hobbies, I spend so much time on it. I don't have that many other hobbies to do stuff, but one thing I do like to do is play Magic the Gathering with my buddies who still play. We actually just got together this last Saturday to be able to play. We only get to do it maybe a handful of times a year, but that's kind of one of the old guards, one of the old hobbies that I used to do a lot of, and don't get to as much anymore, but it's still enjoy it.
Nice, nice. Now, what's your favorite dish to prepare?
I get this question a lot, and I don't have a great answer. My only real answer is I just like making things that I haven't made before. Well,
Uh-huh.
usually when I do like feel the need to express my passion, like on the weekends or something, I'm usually cooking something I haven't cooked before or trying a new technique. Um, just playing around. That's the fun thing about food and the culinary arts is like you can never learn everything. Like it is beyond like anything you could think of. Like there's so many different cuisines, so many different little things. You'll always be learning, and I love that about it.
Well, you have to have some go-tos. So with this, name 4 fantasy football industry icons. Now, this foursome just finished a round of golf and they need some dinner. What's the best multi-course meal that you'd prepare for them?
Okay, so for the golfers, I picked for the analysts that I listen to the most at this point, and that's JJ Zacharyson, Pat Correa, and Ben Gretch and Mike Leone. I appreciate all of them having more of an analytical approach. It's kind of what I do or tend to lean to. So I really like them. Okay. So for a course meal, I want to start off with something bold. So we're doing whiskey braised pork belly that will then be fried. So it's a little bit crispy and, tender on the inside. You don't need very much of that pork belly because it is just an appetizer. And then we're going to pair it with an acidic fennel slaw to kind of cut through the fattiness of the pork belly and then take that braising liquid and turn it into a glaze to kind of finish that off. Then for our second course, I'm going to make some ricotta tortellini with some sausage, some basil, some brodo, which is Italian for broth. So it's basically just a light sauce. We don't want to get too heavy yet. Then for the main, we're going to do a chicken ballantine, which is a French technique where you take a chicken, remove the skin, debone the chicken, and then you basically pound out the white meat, make a sausage out of the dark meat, pipe it in the middle of the white meat, wrap it around, then wrap that around in the chicken skin, cook it whole, and then crisp it up, and then you slice it down. It's just a
Oh my gosh.
really cool technique that I think like looks cool too. Maybe like a cauliflower puree, make a chicken jus from the bones from deboning the chicken, make a little like herb salad to keep a little freshness in there. And then for dessert, we're going to make a chocolate espresso cake, raspberry puree, lemon meringue to get a little bit of texture and a little bit of freshness, and then just some good old fashioned homemade whipped cream.
Oh my gosh. And I haven't, we need to cut this show because I haven't eaten dinner yet. And I am now super hungry because that sounds so good. So, but for you though, like what's the perfect meal for you? What's the ultimate meal for you?
Yeah,
Appetizer, dinner, beverage, and dessert.
yeah. If I'm asking for my last meal, uh, I'd have to ask for Sunday dinner for my grandmother, who's no longer with
Mm.
us. But nothing will ever top pasta and meatballs from my grandmother.
That's a perfect answer. I love that. That's wonderful. What's your favorite restaurant to go to?
I don't have like a particular one. I wish I could give you one. Where I live, not the best restaurant scene, if I'm being honest. I can go to Cleveland, which is okay. There's been some good ones up there. The Greenhouse Tavern was nice, but they're no longer around. Michael Simon has some restaurants that are all pretty good. But honestly, I just like to go to new places and try different places. Just trying new food, honestly. Even if I find something that like I really, really like, a restaurant that I really, really like, I'm not like going all that often just because I want to try something new.
How about Italian restaurants for you? With that heritage and that background and all those meals you've had, and also a preference in what you might make yourself. Like, can you go to an Italian restaurant and enjoy the food, or is it always compared to something else?
It's pretty tough, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Most I just don't do anything for me. Like if that's where my wife wants to go, or if I'm with the group and that's where the group wants to go, no issue whatsoever. I'm not gonna make a stink about it. I'm still gonna eat it. I'm not that much of a prude, but yeah, like there just aren't that many Italian restaurants that I've gone to that I've like legitimately thought were good. It's just tough. They exist without a doubt. I've definitely been to a couple. Actually, in Disney World, in one of like the downtown area, I had some of the best pasta I've ever had, which was wild. Like I wasn't expecting it at all, but so I mean, it exists obviously. Like there's out there people out there doing really good Italian food. It's just I think it can be hard to find.
When's the last time you were at Olive Garden?
I truly do not know.
Yeah.
I don't think I could tell you when the last time was.
What's your favorite fast food?
Bojangles,
Oh,
which
okay.
does not exist near me, but
Yeah.
I've had it while in other states. And Southern food is one of my favorite types of food, one of my favorite cuisines. And Bojangles just does it right. I don't know, like the biscuits are delicious. The
Okay.
fried chicken is incredible. Just so good.
I've always heard good things. I haven't been there myself, so I'll have to check it out if I'm ever near a
I'm
Bojangles.
I'm
Definitely don't have them
lucky.
in Seattle.
I'm lucky that there aren't actually any around me because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
eat it way too often.
of course, of course. Now, who in the fantasy community would you want to cook for? Or no, sorry. Who in the fantasy football industry would you want to eat a meal from? Someone who really appreciates the culinary arts.
So it's definitely Matt Ward for me, Psych Ward FF on Twitter, who I
Okay.
know is not very active anymore, or at least not right now. I know, like I've talked to him, he's just life wise had to take bigger priority on making content. But he was one of the first people like I connected with through food when joining the Twitterverse, and I've seen some of his food, him posting pictures and stuff like that. And I know that he does a good job just from talking to him, and I know he's talented, so I'd love it.
Yeah, no, there's some people that are pretty passionate about their grilling. Heath Cummings, Joe Bryant. There's a lot of people out there that definitely can do a good job. That I'd love to pull up a table next to for sure. What's your favorite all time TV show?
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Uh, watch it from the very beginning. Watch every single season. I do a rewatch of the entire series every year, at least once a year. Um, I can't get enough of that show.
That's been mentioned a lot on this show.
I'm
So
not surprised. It's a great
yeah,
show.
it's a good one for sure. What's your all time favorite movie?
The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay.
Um, a childhood favorite of mine. That I absolutely love the music in the movie, and I really, really like the underlying storyline. I think gets lost in it a lot of times because I think people just look at it as like, oh, Tim Burton movie. That's like a musical, but like it's a story about self discovery, and I think it's really well done. Um, and it's yeah, I've just always loved it, and now I get to share it with my son, which is cool.
Nice. Now, is it a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie?
It's both. I think you can call it both.
Nice, nice. How about an all time favorite sports movie?
It's either Happy Gilmore or A League of Their Own. And I depending on the day, I'll go either way. Tom Hanks in A League of Their Own is just like next level good. And then
Okay.
of course it's hard to argue with Adam Sandler.
It's hard to beat Happy Gilmore for sure. Oh, what's your favorite band, singer, or artist?
It's very hard for me to pick a singular band to answer this question. I know like everyone says I listen to everything. And I don't mean to like say that I'm better than anybody when I say this, but like I truly do listen to everything. I have a very wide range of musical taste. I listen to music a lot. Uh, I go, from like one gamut to the other. Like one of my favorite artists is Amy Winehouse, but I also listen to death metal. Like I love Panic at the Disco, but then I'm really into like really instrumental like progressive music like Polyphia. Like I Fall Out Boy, Paramore, Teddy Swims, who's like this soulful stuff. I was just at a concert last week for this bluegrass artist. Like I truly try to span the gambit there. So it's hard for me to just say one. It kind of depends on my mood.
What's the best Taylor Swift album?
Oh, you'd have to ask my wife. And I'm not trying to say I don't like Taylor Swift. I do like Taylor Swift, but I'm not like a fervent fan like most people are who knows like every single song but on every single album, that kind of thing. So I don't know if I could tell you like what the best album is. I just enjoy her music.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What are you most grateful for at this time?
My family, my wife especially. Uh, She is kind enough to let me spend way too much time on this silly little hobby and is very supportive of me doing it. So she's amazing. Couldn't do it without her. Couldn't be here without her, and her and my son, they're the world.
That's a fantastic answer. I love that. One last question: who's got the best beard in fantasy football in the community?
Oh man, that is a tough answer. I'm assuming I'm not allowed to say myself.
Well,
I
I mean,
feel like I'd be
I
up
mean,
there.
easily say you're a top, you're a top 10. I don't know if there's 9 others, but you're definitely in there.
Oh man, I'm trying to think of it. Now, see, now this is gonna seem like I'm just trying to eventually say myself, but I'm having trouble thinking of the best one in the moment.
You can always get back to me on that.
Okay, I might have to do that.
Tag the person when we post this interview.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, can you name a few people that have had just a huge impact on you during your time in the fantasy sports industry?
Sure. Number one is Skylar, the co-owner of JWB, who I talked about before. Honestly, like his just work ethic, his demeanor, like everything about him and how he makes content and interacts with people, I think is like top notch. And he inspires me to do better every single day. So he's like one of the best people I could have met, I think, when it comes to the fantasy industry, and helps me, continue to do better there. But it's the Happy Hour crew, shout out, who I know if any of them listen to it, they'll know who they are. Is basically like the big friend group of mine that I've met and been a part of since joining the fantasy football industry. We talk every single day, big DM chat. When the expo comes around, we stay in a big house together, which is super cool, as many of us that we can. And a lot of them create content. A lot of them are just like players who kind of interact with the content, but they all help influence and shape the content that I make and do in the fantasy industry, and how I act in the fantasy industry. So those people are invaluable.
I love it. I love it. What advice do you have for people that want to get more involved in creating content in fantasy? Whether it's people that just don't do it but want to, or people that do it and want to do more. Like, what advice do you have based on your experiences?
Yeah, I mean, first, it's just start doing it. Like first off, like I figure out what you want to do, and then just start doing it. Like there's no other way to start. Uh, most brands, if you're gonna try and like work for them, they want something to see to show like the kind of work you do. So you kind of just have to just start doing things, whether it's like something small, just like a website, a blog, whatever, like, or you start making threads. As much as people hate threads, whatever, like it's a form of content that you could make on Twitter, just whatever it is, just start doing it and putting it out there. I always say that like quality content finds a way. Like people will see something, and if it's good, then they're going to share it. People will like it, and then it will be seen by more people. And so, like, if you're just making good content, eventually people will see it, and it kind of goes from there in a way. And obviously, that depends on how much work you put into it, but also build relationships with people that you value, who think can help you on your goals, who think you can help you be a better person, be a better analyst, all those things. Like, I think that is one of the most important things you can do in the fantasy football industry. It's one of the most important things you can do as a person, just in real life, is just surround yourself with people you value, who think add value to you in a very healthy way.
That's great. That's fantastic advice. Appreciate that very much, Wyatt. Now, is there anything we haven't covered that you want to share before we close things out?
Yeah, donate to Fantasy Cares. Scott Fishbowl, right around the corner, we kind of mentioned that. Fantasy Cares, the charity for Scott Fishbowl, and just a charity in general. You can donate to it anytime if you really want to, and they do amazing work. It's honestly like the best thing that's come from the fantasy industry, in my opinion, is the charity, and that's Fantasy Cares.
And yeah, Scott has created such an incredible presence in this fantasy industry for everyone in the community that that is passionate about the game. We've all, Scott has brought so many people together through his work with SFB, and obviously Fantasy Cares, the way that it's grown and blown up. It's doing amazing things, and it's just a huge part of the fabric of the fantasy community. So
Absolutely.
great shout out there. Tell the listeners and viewers where they can find your work.
Yeah, so when everyone's done liking and subscribing to Fantasy Football Unlimited, you can find most of my work at JWB Fantasy Football on YouTube and everywhere, honestly. And then if you want to see my writing, you can find that at Dynasty League Football.
There we go. There it is. Wyatt, thank you again so much for coming on here. It was an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to see you in Canton.
Yes.
Best of luck in the live drafts coming up. Hope you enjoy every ounce of that. And again, I can't wait to see you at the Expo.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It was an honor and a pleasure and a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. Super excited to see you again in the Expo. Hopefully we can hang out for a little bit longer. I know most times it's been like, hey, and then, and then moving along as things are pretty high paced there.
Or we're in karaoke and things are just crazy all around us, right?
Yeah, for sure. You gonna sing some this year?
We'll see. I'll have to start preparing right now, but we'll see if I can put some things together. I mean, it's not going to be pretty, but it'll be fun.
Hey, no one cares how good you are. I just want to see it.
There we go.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.